Fold open. Okay.
My cursed tool is the one that got taken away. And I was like, oh my Lord, Gege, I will literally come to Japan. You need to stop. You need to stop fucking with me. That shit pissed me off so bad. And the thing about it is like, I don't have a problem with it overall because I know like now it's like, oh, the curse tool's gone permanently. So that's why he probably didn't want to take away Sukuna's curse technique, right? Like if it's going to permanently take it away, then he can't be fighting with like bare hands for the end of the series. But like, bro, like, we already know Sukuna's OP. Like, he's OP. We get it. Like, the dude is going to whoop everybody's ass. He's going to kill everybody. Can the heroes,
it's like, you know, you've got a character like Higuruma. People love him. He's so cool. He's got a really cool ability. And you go through all that and you bring, you know, his domain out and you got the fucking, the judge. I don't know the fucking names of this shit.
The judge
guy.
70% of the people that come here for Chainsaw Man just clicked off the video, by the way.
Yeah. The subtitle of this is JJK episode. The JJK episode. Every Chainsaw Man podcast.
We gotta call it the Kendrick versus Drake episode.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to litigate Kendrick versus Drake.
Call it CSM versus JJK fandom discussion or something like that. Because it is.
There we go.
I'm definitely talking about CSM. I love Chainsaw Man. I think it's a great manga.
Finally had migraine on the podcast. We got to talk about Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, we got to talk a little bit about it. I love CSM. I should have come on the chapter where like Denji and Pochita was because that shit almost broke my heart. Like, I'm a big Denji relationship, like his inner relationships and the heart of Chainsaw Man shit. Like, I'm big on that. And when Peter was waving to him, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this man did not just cook his dogs, like, dude, like." I was like, "There's no universe, he just killed the dogs," and I am now at the position that he probably almost certainly killed them dogs. Like, it's a 99% certainty.
Meowie's good though, right? The cat is safe.
Gege. He's doing cool. Listen, my man Yuta.
Meowie and Chainsaw Man, dude.
As long as he
alive,
as long as he doesn't one shot Yuta, I'm comfortable. If Yuta so much as makes Sukuna bleed, a lot of people
are talking about Yuta getting eaten. That would be so fucking hilarious.
Hey! I saw a screenshot. I know he's in the new chapter. That shit doesn't drop for 30 more minutes. I read official
or scans.
Oh, you only read official?
Very hard.
Only read official. I only read official. If I read official because if I pay $3 a month for it, I might as well get my money's worth.
That's true. I read a lot of manga for that $3 a month, to be honest. So I don't really care too much. And the official translation for JJK are notoriously horrendous because John Wary doesn't even read the manga. Like, he just reads the
I don't know how he cannot be reading the manga.
It's kind of crazy.
Translating the manga.
And then he just goes with that. He doesn't even look at the page. I don't think he knows who like Kenjaku is. I definitely don't think he's ever heard of like if you ask him like Higuruma and a Culling Games player, he probably would not know what the Culling Games was. He probably stopped reading it like 5 years ago or something.
Was he the comedian or the lawyer guy?
Yeah, exactly. Like I heard there was jokes on the page, and then there was like a dude who was hosting a trial in the middle of the battle for some reason. I don't know. Like, he named like the weapon, which is arguably, if Gege doesn't give us a flashback with that weapon, I'm gonna be so mad. But you got to be peaceful for like the time being with JJK because Gege, like you said it perfectly. You said he sets up things. And you're like, okay, he's gonna do this, and then you have to like wait a year to see if he is gonna like remember that he set that thing up. Like, people, he set up Miwa, right? Like, this was a little something, but it was.
Oh, I'm gonna fucking. I almost threw my phone out the fucking window, and it turned out to be nothing.
Sets up Miwa in Shibuya as being like, I'm gonna get revenge, and then like a year, maybe even a year or two, at least 2 years later. No, it would have been a year later because I think
it was like a year, yeah.
When Kenjaku got here, she's like shown in like Sendai Colony, and she gets like this really cool panel, and people were saying she was going to be the mole. People were saying that she was going to land the final blow on like Kenjaku. People were saying they were saying crazy stuff. Now, to be fair, the fandom gets a little bit like out of control. But when that man dropped the chapter and the panel said that she was literally useless and could never swing a sword again, bro, If
Oh yeah, that shit. Oh, dude. Okay. God damn it.
my negative experience roasting JJK, I would have literally ripped that shit apart. I would have like, this is garbage.
All right. I think. This is there's so much stuff we could talk to with this. Should we first introduce the podcast and then talk about what happened this week?
5 minutes in of roasting JJK. No, we don't need to roast JJK. I don't want to hop it on Miwa. Just because she can't swing a sword anymore doesn't mean she's out of the picture. You know what I mean? JJK is notorious for his wordplay and nonsense. You know what I mean? There's still hope. But yeah. This is not a JJK podcast usually, but today might just end up being the JJK episode. This is the Public Safety Special Broadcast, and I am your host, Secret Doves, here on the show. I'm gonna skip the kayfabe today because we're very much, out. We're talking on the meta level. Today we're gonna be talking about fandom shit. We're not gonna be talking about the manga. We're not in the CSM universe. We are out and above. We're looking down upon these creators. We're gonna slander some people today. So that's who I am. I don't usually introduce my Twitter on here, but it is the same handle, secret_doves. We're gonna be talking about that today. I'm just I just a guy who writes about Chainsaw Man mostly, but manga in general and random stuff. If you don't know about that side of my content empire that I'm building,
you're in your Monogatari posting era.
Yeah, I'm in my paneling analysis arc right now, dude. I'm getting really into the paneling analysis. It's very fun. That's where I am, not with any sort of goofball lore. Jake Jones, why don't you introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about what you do out and about in the anime community. For those who don't necessarily know, I think most people do tune in, but for those who don't,
I would doubt that. But hello, I am Jake. I make videos on YouTube under the name Jake Jones. For a long time, like a year and a half, I did weekly chapter reviews of Chainsaw Man when Chainsaw Man was weekly. I took a little break from that, but now I make video essays about shit. I'm in my video essay arc. Just trying to not be washed.
Right? What about the Apothecary Diaries? I didn't watch it all the way through.
Yeah, that's the yesterday one that just dropped yesterday. Actually, check that out if you have the time. My name is Jake Jones on YouTube.
Yep. Free Armos Gas went huge. Love to see that. And the Apothecary Diaries one, I will have to see how gas it is, but it's looking good.
Now, I worked with a really awesome editor for both of those. I worked with the same editor for both of those. That guy is the GOAT, Diego. I'm gonna plug him, Diego Brando on Twitter. Absolute editor GOAT.
Love it. And Migraine, why don't you go introduce yourself, who you are, what you're up to in fandom spaces.
Yeah, so basically, I started gassing Don the Don because I came on Twitter and I was like, yo, nobody is talking about Don the Don. Like, there were a couple people, but it was basically like night and day. And fortunately, the Chainsaw Man anime dropped. I had actually read Chainsaw Man for the first time in the summer of 22, and I read Don the Don right after that. And then I read Hell's Paradise. I read like 3-4 manga back to back, and it was a great era of manga for me personally. But I've been reading JJK since 2020, along with like Sakamoto Days and Spy Family. But basically on Twitter, I just gassed Don the Don, and I am 100% Team Gojo. So if you've ever seen any of the slander on from Sukuna, I probably contributed to that as well. So sometimes you got to clarify for JJK. So we still ask the question. We're like, hey, what side were you on during Gojo versus Sukuna? The answer to that question can determine our friendship.
If I'm honest, technically I would be Team Sukuna because I was confident he would win the entire time.
You were confident he would win?
This guy.
All right.
That was a fair bet. Hey,
one way or another, but I can understand.
Like narrative wise, it was like I mean, obviously, like, the main character in this manga needs to do something. Yes. So I guess Gojo can't really win. But at the same time, then they drew like 10 chapters of like a few chapters of back and forth, and like 4 or 5 chapters of Gojo just straight beating his ass. And after that, she's like, okay, I guess that's just nothing then.
Gojo
It
goes
was
for real.
definitely a good bait and switch, because he definitely, I mean, he had people going. Like I was like, I knew at like going into the fight, like you said, like Yuji had to win the fight. And Yuji is such a unfortunate, like unlucky protagonist, because his mangaka lets everybody else and their mother be the MC besides him. But he's he's finally the MC again. So he looks good on the page right now. I know you didn't read the chapter, but it was a good chapter for Yuji. But during that fight, man, it was generational. It was a special run, and the fandom definitely elevated it to like the next level of hilarity. Because that would be an example of a fight where I'm not going to criticize anything in the fight, because I'm enjoying slandering Sukuna just too much, man. Like, it was so funny.
I will say the online etiquette when 236 dropped was probably the worst I've ever seen in my entire life.
So
you guys,
just the fact that like you could not open up any.
No,
and I will say, like I talked about this.
I got spoiled coming in. Like, I usually will come into the GC right away, so that like they'll drop the link to the chapter, or whatever. And I got spoiled by someone in the GC who was like, "Ha, migraine, Gojo got that," and I was like, "Dude, like, let me read the freaking chapter, dude." Like,
the same exact thing happened to me, but like it was a Chainsaw Man group chat, and it was someone being like someone who just hated JJK. It was just like, haha, like JJK fans, like this just happened, like this shit on. And I opened it up. I was just like, I fucking dude.
okay.
I don't read the spoilers. Are you fucking serious?
Why are we talking about JJK? You may be coming here, regular viewers, and be like,
Oh,
why the fuck are these guys yapping about JJK? Today we're talking about online fandom.
online discourse.
Yeah. Oh, this is the cringe episode where I talk about some shit that went down on Twitter, right? Like every fucking light creator's got some video where they talk about some tweet they made and everybody yelled at them. Today I'm going to be talking about getting yelled at on Twitter, even though I think it was fine. But
I want the play-by-play on that so bad, because when I opened up Twitter the other day, the first thing I saw was a tweet from you that was just like, "Man, you guys really hate Drake, huh?" And I was like, what is he talking about? And then I saw the base tweet. Can you read the tweet? Like what you said?
Bro, it's so fucking, I mean, this is a fucking masterpiece, by the way. This is a great tweet, even though, like, you know, I'll give you a little lesson on how to tweet. You have to say some stupid shit when you tweet. Like, this is the laws of Twitter. Okay, I will pull it up here. I want to start though, because this didn't begin with me. All right, migraine. This was me hopping in on your setup here. You came in on I think it was Kree, the Hikari agendaist.
Yeah, so basically what happened is for the past like week or so, and it's happened now, but for the past week or so, like Chainsaw Man and JJK fans have been beefing on the timeline. So I generally was just ignoring it. However, that particular tweet, Kree had said something along the lines of JJK was going to influence like future generations forever. And I thought that was a really ironic tweet, because if we look at what the mangaka are saying, apparently Fujimoto is the one who is like super influential on the younger mangaka. And I'm not saying JJK won't influence people. It's selling.
Oh, wait, that's right. Wasn't there like a contest where like some mangaka was like, "Can you guys stop fucking like trying to be Fujimoto?"
Yeah, I posted a screenshot of the Assassination Classroom mangaka telling people to stop copying Fujimoto, and then I quote retweeted what Kree had said, and I was like, "This is ironic because they said, you know, Fujimoto is going to be influential," and I was kind of baiting a little bit, but again, it's a calculated tweet. You have to post it in a certain way in order to not get people riled up. And then Secret Doves comes in, and if you want to say what you said,
okay,
and that was it.
And migraine, I think he's been in the trenches. You hashtag retired from Agenda Kaisen officially a couple weeks ago.
I'm done with it.
He's done. We'll get into agendas and shit too as well. God, I fucking cooked with this one. A, the take is good. B, it is written in an incredibly aggravating way, which I spent a while on this one, by the way. To give a pop culture analog, I was giving a little theory. You know, I'm big into like aesthetic theory. I love discussing like how art is made, how it impacts the future, how artistic movements form, how mediums change over time. I love reading about this shit. I love writing about this shit, thinking about this shit. It's a very pretentious thing to think about and write about. People hate when you talk about it because they all come and yell at you no matter what you say, because everybody thinks they know about it even though they never think about it. But I had to make it spicy. I had to really piss off the JJK fans a little bit. Sometimes you just got to do it. The tweets, to give a pop culture analog.
Sometimes.
Yeah. To give a pop culture analog, JJK is like Drake. He's massively popular, huge sales, is undoubtedly catchy. Listeners love it, but artists don't find it as exciting. And Chainsaw Man is like Kendrick. He's still popular, but he's experimental and he's overly intellectual. And he's fewer sales, but artists love it. Now, on the surface, this is a very innocuous thing to say. It's sort of like just a broad assessment of two works and their different intentions and values. But of course, you know, I think, okay, everybody started yelling at me. This is the time. Basically, after this, I got, by the way, ratio failed, by the way, because we still got 800 quote tweets, but 1,300 likes. So we're chilling.
As long as you don't get ratioed, I say you didn't get cooked. That's my personal opinion on it. If someone ratios you by like 7K to 1K, then you got cooked.
No,
but
the biggest ratio is like 1.5K to the 1.3K likes on here.
Like you're in the comfortable zones. Enough people agreed with you.
So what I saw online, whether it was on Reddit or on Twitter, people said they found the tweet. They said they found the tweet and Chainsaw Man fans pretentious.
It's true.
So
I'm not going to deny it.
First of all,
that's probably true. But I will give the JJ.
It is true. First of all, your take is right. Like the analogy of JJK being Drake and Chainsaw Man being Kendrick. It's actually not a bad analogy. The one thing that's wrong is saying that either Chainsaw Man or Kendrick are overly intellectual. I said I fucking love Kendrick, but what
are you talking about? Kendrick is made verses in the song Brick where like the rhyme and structure was calculated in a way to align with the volume measurements of a brick of cocaine, and he was rapping about selling drugs. Like that's the most fucking like up your own ass kind of overly intellectual rap. It's annoying, bro. Like it's like like it's very but it's like so you know.
The one like when I think about a comparison between Kendrick, so I'm eating the mic, Kendrick and Chainsaw Man, I'm thinking like how people would tweet screenshots of like Denji being like, I'll tongue your ass for a week if you let me go. Like, oh, this is your intellectual manga? And I'm like, no, this is actually the perfect comparison, because this is like Kendrick saying, this dick ain't free. For like the entirety of a song, or like Denji saying sex, I want sex. That's literally the chorus of Wesley's theory when he says, at first I did love you, now I just want to fuck, late nights thinking of you until I get my nut. And I'm like, yes, this is my Chainsaw Man rapper.
Kendrick bars on this podcast right now. It's so fucking sick. But but when I say overly intellectual, that's what I mean. It's like these guys are doing basically like pop culture stuff. It's a little trashy sometimes. It's in the pocket of like pop stuff. Fujimoto's big into like B movie references, indie horror movie references. You know, it's kind of corny stuff. But then they intellectualize it, you know, they turn it into these things, they bring in these like extra concepts and add all these layers, and it's like yes, but they're being so overly intellectual, which is like not a good thing. I'm not over here talking about like, oh, it's so good that like they're so smart, they're so cool. I'm like, you know,
I'm
it's not,
still
it's not
team.
it's not the it's not unequivocally a good thing to intellectualize your own work too much. Sometimes it can be really interesting and it can pay off well, and sometimes it's just like, like, what are you doing, bro? Like,
And I would say like with Chainsaw Man, I definitely went into it like expecting like it to just be some B movie nonsense. Like I was expecting like just like some like he has chainsaws coming out of his face thing, and I was like, okay, whatever, we'll read that. And then I read it, and I tell you, man, that manga had me like completely brokenhearted by the end. I was like, oh my god, I was like
Oh, Jesus.
sobbing. For context, Aki was my favorite character of part one.
oof.
When Aki got taken out and we had the snowball fight scene, I was like, hands up in the air. You got me.
Yeah, that shit.
I'm locked in. You got me. All right, you got me. And I think I understood what you were saying with the tweet. I feel like for context with a lot of JJK fans, they do not like any manga that is remotely weird. So like a lot of JJK fans don't like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They don't like Don Don. They don't like Chainsaw Man. If you have a manga and there's something strange going on the screen and it takes like more than like one chapter to get that over with, that becomes a bit of a problem. They like manga like Sakamoto Days. They like, like manga that are like back-to-back action. And the one manga that is a little bit wacky that I can recommend to Jujutsu Kaisen fans that like almost every JJK fan loves is Chojin X. They love Chojin.
Yes.
Like
I'm a huge Chojin guy.
If you're like trying to recommend something to JJK and it's like not like Sakamoto Days and it's not going to be like 5 fights every 5.
Are you sure you want to blast this? Because I remember people were like shuffling the JJK fandom around during the 3-week break. They were like,
I think that the JJK fandom is so weird because it's really just like 2 different fandoms. So right. Usually when they talk about like the JJK fandom, they're talking about like the anime boost, which brought in a lot of I believe the term is like fujoshis or something like that. And so there's like a big shipping culture in JJK, which is in every like major manga. Yeah. So a lot of times when people talk about, like the JJK fandom is cooked, they're really talking about that part of the JJK fandom. Whereas that part of the JJK fandom, the part that cooked you was probably more on what they refer to as like the guy Dubro side of the fandom. That really hate. Those guys hate just about every manga that they will hate on any manga that is not Jujutsu Kaisen and Hunter x Hunter. if they're not those two.
Yeah. It's insane to me because like, and I said I love JJK. Like I read JJK weekly. Like I look forward to JJK drops. Even though I made an entire video cooking 236, but like I still there is a weirdness. It's not every and like when we talk about these kinds of things, like talking about these fandoms, like Chainsaw Man fandoms versus JJK fandoms. It's actually it's a very vocal minority. It's not necessarily the entire fandoms from both sides because I know plenty of normal people on both sides to just normally like these series, but there's something about the vocal minority when it comes to JJK discourse where for some reason, and maybe it's just on Twitter, I don't see it on Reddit, I don't see it like anywhere else, it's mostly on Twitter, where if you mention the series or like if you mention any other series without even talking about JJK, they bring JJK in. It's sometimes like, and it's not everyone, it is not everyone, but when it's someone, it's usually a JJK like profile picture or something, and it's sometimes just like needlessly aggressive. When I saw the dogpiling on the Doves tweet, I was like, yeah, this is about how I thought it would happen.
This is what I thought would happen too. I was sitting there looking at it like, should I launch it? I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm like, the break week on Chainsaw Man, it's been a little down. Like, it's a very exciting moment in the story, but it's hard to talk about, in part because it's so fucking depressing, and in part because it's just like, we just gotta wait and see, where are we going with this? So, let's aggravate some people with the correct take. Let me go.
I still disagree with the intellectual thing, though. I think both. I think I like, especially for Chainsaw Man,
because
Chainsaw Man. I mean, obviously, I love Chainsaw Man. You know, I wouldn't have made so many videos about it if I didn't. But Chainsaw Man, I do not think is an overly intellectual manga. I think it is a wacky manga. It is very wacky. I think it is like because you know when you mentioned I will say the brick thing with Kendrick, that is super cool. That is very overly intellectual. Like when I like that, I will say in that regard, I don't think Fujimoto has anything that like that calculated
Goodbye
in
Air.
Chainsaw Man.
Goodbye,
Not in
Aries.
Chainsaw Man, maybe.
That's not Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, but well,
I mean, Goodbye is kind of crazy. The guy really did make every single panel. You know, that's kind of a
That's fantastic. But that's like, but I would compare the amazing paneling and direction of Chainsaw Man. I would not compare that to the intellectualness of Kendrick's like songwriting. I would compare that to the more like jazz inspired chord progressions and like harmony that Kendrick uses in his songs.
Sure,
So but that's not like an
yeah.
intellectual thing. That's a structure thing.
There was a guy who was like, I'm just gonna put like we're gonna put 9/11 in the manga twice. We're gonna do it twice.
Yeah, no, like, absolutely.
We're gonna put we're gonna talk about like the machinations of the state and the control that it wields over citizens and their relationship to power in my shonen manga where the dude has chainsaw mans on his head. Like he puts it in up front. Like he doesn't say, he doesn't say read into it. Bring your, he says, hey guys, 9/11. Also 9/11 twice. Also
9/11
government. Also, like governments hiring pedophiles to run. Like
he's gun devil spirit that is summoned by America to kill Japanese people.
Yeah, like
I would not consider that overly intellectual. I would consider that more of like because Chainsaw Man is absolutely, out of all the manga currently like going right now, I would say Chojin X is similar on this level, but like those two manga are like the embodiment of like fuck it, we ball.
No,
like every like I feel like that's
also a 9/11 manga. That manga is basically like directly referencing plane terrorism. It's like
it happens like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like there's so many scenes where a plane blows up.
It's like he just made it into like a plot point. Like it happens in the beginning, and then it happens right after the time skip, and then it happens several times through the manga.
But I mean, Ishida is also
if you buy a plane ticket in the Chojin X universe, that's on you.
Yeah, don't do it. Like the first chapter is like one of the main characters getting fried in a bombing on the plane. Like that's literally how
it's such a good chapter.
At first, when I was like, is this not the main character? Is this like is this country? She's just dead now. Like this isn't the main character.
It was an interesting setup for the manga to set up Ellie and I forgot what his name is, Charma or something. I don't like that character, so I don't really remember him.
Oh, Charm.
But yeah, he basically starts it off with a flame children smoking an airplane or smoke children bombing an airplane,
right?
And then like he has the kids and they're like run. Like I love Children X. I think Children X is definitely like JJK dropped 212, which is probably arguably most people, especially in the JJK fandom, but a lot of people are going to put that as like the biggest chapter of 2023. I personally have Opium as the biggest chapter of 2023. That for me, when he dropped the Opium chapter and it's 50 pages of greatness.
Oh yeah.
Like I was like, this is incredible. That was like it was like a night and day transformation for Tokyo. It was like
was the boob fist was that the last chapter of 2023 when he was like, we're having curry for boob fist?
No, Opium is the chapter where we find out about Zora.
But was the boob fist chapter, was that in 2023? Because if it was, that was my chapter of 2023. That was so funny.
Okay. Yeah.
Is like the GOAT MC. That shit was so funny.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Just to defend my point, you draw an analogy with Ishida. Ishida's also an overly intellectual guy, man. Like he starts Tokyo Ghoul.
That I would agree with. I would absolutely agree with.
Him and Fujimoto are in the exact same fucking bag. Like they're like, oh, let me draw my monster of the week story, but I'm gonna put like all this.
Okay,
You know,
but Ishida is different though, I would say, because like Ishida in chapter 1 of Tokyo Ghoul, Ishida had the main character draw a picture of a monster that he thinks a ghoul would look like, and then 250 chapters later, he turns into said monster. And it's just like the foreshadowing, the use of like tarot card symbolism throughout the entirety of because I was reading Tokyo Ghoul Weekly. That was like my first hyperfixation. Like that, the foreshadowing and shit was insane in that.
we're talking about online fandoms. Let me go a little bit in here. I'll be jumping off of that. That is not foreshadowing, guys. Okay, can I just? Okay, there's two different. My big thing with online fandoms is it's a lot of people talking about stuff, and everybody has stuff to say, and this is very much a symptom of just the world we live in, right? The internet we're on. You make a video about any damn thing, you have a take about anything, and people are going to come in and they're going to yell at you, and it doesn't matter whether they have they know about it, or they've thought about it, or they've considered things in detail, or whatever. Something like that is a call back. Ishida, he draws the monster there. Maybe he thought, I'm gonna do this monster at some point, you know what I mean? Or I'm gonna turn him into the monster at some point, or whatever. But now he just has that there. As he's writing the story, he's just got it there. He can do it anytime. It can happen whenever. It is like a tool for him. If he had never done it, everyone would probably just forget about it. Wouldn't fucking matter. But he had it there. So he's like coming to the end of the story. Man, it's a rough ride. The story's kind of a mess. But
at the end, absolutely, yeah.
He's still got the monster in his pocket. He's like, you know what? I have this. Boom, and he drops it, right?
The thing is, there is so much foreshadowing and symbolism in Tokyo Ghoul. I would not be surprised if in the beginning he thought, I'm totally gonna have him turn into this monster, because it's one of those things where because in the first chapter of Tokyo Ghoul, Kaneki draws like the monster, what ends up being the dragon in part 2 of Tokyo Ghoul, and then Hide draws a picture of Kaneki. And then later in that chapter, he does turn into a ghoul. And it's just like, okay, so what if he's actually both fucking pictures? Like that. Like, I would not be surprised if that's the case, because there's so much interesting symbolism in Tokyo Ghoul. One of my favorite ones was at the end of part 1 in the fight with Ken Kaneki and Kisho Arima, when he stabs him through the eyeball, and like he has got like the empty socket there, and then like Kaneki damages Kisho Arima's like super powerful defensive Kinke. He's like, okay. Then he stabs out his other eye, and it was like a Dharma symbolism where it's just like, at first he stabbed out one eye, it's like making your wish, and he was wishing for someone powerful enough to beat him in a fight someday, and then he stabs the other eye out because he's like, okay, like I've found my wish has been achieved. And like just the symbolism in like almost every like pivotal moment in Tokyo Ghoul is like just so peak. What am I talking about? I'm just going on a fucking rant now.
Going on a rant about you.
JJK?
I haven't actually read all of Tokyo Ghoul. I'm barely listening.
Oh, my bad.
I'm not getting spoiled or anything, but I
you know,
will say that in regard to Ishida, who I am fully in love with, and I actually have considered reading Tokyo Ghoul just because of Children X. Like Children X.
Oh, you gotta.
I was like, I have to read this. It's between like I gotta reid Hunter x Hunter from beginning to end, and then I have to read. I wanted to read Fire Punch and then Tokyo Ghoul. So it's I'm kind of in my in that era, whatever you summarize that. But I would say that I understand the overly intellectual point. I would say that for me with Fujimoto is I feel like he goes in the opposite direction realistically, because I think he does like the smart stuff really well, and I think he weaves it into the story really well. Like for a lot of people like Makima, for example, the way he constructed that character and her total purpose and the themes that he built from like watching like, you know, child abuse documentaries and the concept of the mother and the tree and all that stuff. For me, all that shit makes perfect sense and it fits perfectly for her character. I would say that it's the wackier stuff that is what really gets Chainsaw Man into trouble. It's like he kind of goes overboard in certain areas. Like they were talking about the uniform sword thing the other day. And I understand that, like, you know, these days there is a degree of the audience that like has zero tolerance for that type of stuff. So even in like Donnie Bunkers, things like that. But for me personally, I understood what he was aiming for, but at the same time, you know, you are drawing it, right? Like you are drawing it on the page. And so like that, the Denji scene where he's like licking the tentacle and all that kind of stuff. He definitely does things like Fumiko's a perfect example where Fumiko is introduced and she basically like sexually assaults like Denji like on the spot. And it's like, okay, he's got to be cooking something, right? You know, like he's got to be cooking something with Fumiko.
That's what I mean.
Now we're
really
months in, and I don't know if he's cooking anything.
He gets himself like he has these ideas that he wants to do, and he thinks it through, and he's got the idea, and it ends up working. So you're like, okay, dude. But then
you got to give him a little bit of like wiggle room. You got to give him a little.
But you know, he's it's overwrought to the point where sometimes he just ends up doing shit where you're just like, dude, you didn't have to do that, man. Like, what?
I've said it so many times. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're too up here, bro. Come down a little bit. You know, you're lost in your own sauce. You know what I mean? Like, come back down.
I agree. That's kind of the only thing with Fujimoto's. It's just like, especially in part 2, because I feel like in part 1 it just fit better because like part 1 is a different structure, a different type of story, whereas part 2 is a little bit slower, it's a little bit paced out, and so when these moments happen, they stick out like a sore thumb, and it's like, oh my god, what the fuck was that? Why is that here? Like the aquarium, he drops like a panel that is like 500 words, just like that's the entire panel is her just talking, and it's important, but
that was gas. Yeah,
when that happened. Like before, people don't remember that Asa was like hated. Like people hated Asa when she first was introduced, and when that happened, dude,
I run in different circles, dude. Because
I was definitely in the Asa positive.
No,
community.
I was in Asa positive as well, but I was fighting for my life for Asa positivity because the timeline did not like Asa. Like people were like, Asa.
I saw a few of those. Yeah,
where's Denji? She's not the main character. Why is she here? Why is she talking so much? Why is she mean to Denji? And then the aquarium scene happens where she goes running through the hallways with him, and it's like a night and day switch. And everyone was shut up after that. They were like, okay, we understand. We see the vision with Asa. We see the vision with Denji, and we will let it cook. So she's become like easily one of the most iconic characters to drop probably in the past couple of years in terms of manga. It's very, very small.
Asa Yoru duo is just fucking absolute incredible dynamic at this point. It's fucking people are begging for her back now. They're like, where the Asa?
Yeah, no, that's me. Where the Asa chapters at, dude?
Every day,
I will literally go get the tweet, man, because it was pretty. I've considered making the tweet as well to just be like, I remember you guys. You're not gonna try and gaslight me. I remember when you all hated Asa.
I wrote down your handles. I wrote down your ats. I wrote down your. I took screenshots of your PFPs. Like
it was a bad time where I was like, dude, people, because I mean, she was like basically the main character. So if you don't like Asa, and every chapter is focused on Asa, then you don't like Chainsaw Man. So people were like, Chainsaw Man fell off. Chainsaw Man Part 2 is not that good. All that stuff. I'm like, guys, just be calm. Like, he's developing the character. He's setting things up.
Let him cook.
And then he drops the aquarium. He drops Falling Down.
Okay. Let me just say, everyone who's fucking annoyed because Denji wasn't there and was whining about Asa, you ruined peak fiction for yourself because the entire Asa arc was gas from front to back,
dude.
Through the Yuko
chapter 100,
through the Yuko fight, through 103, 102, 104, 105, incredible run of chapters, absolutely great. Oh god, you know, you poisoned your own. You could have been just drinking from the font, but you poisoned it with your own stupid expectations, and now here you are on the train with everybody else looking like a dumbass. You could have just been having a good time, but you were up in your own head.
It was a good time, man. I missed that chapters, to be honest. Like when you talk about like I'm a big Yuko
fun
fan.
Times, man.
early part 2 is I'm so fucking nostalgic for that era of Chainsaw Man, just because the vibes were immaculate. The most Asa hate I saw was chapter 100. It was the third chapter of part 2, when everyone's like, oh, something big's gonna happen in chapter 100, like we're gonna get Denji back or something. And then like it was like the super like emotional chapter, and everyone was just like, not everyone, like I saw like a decent amount of people being like, wow, this is really boring, this sucks, like where the fuck is Denji? And I was just like, this is like one of the best chapters we've gotten like so far. And like the everything from the art to like just so good.
Yeah,
one thing with Chainsaw Man Part 2 is you can really see how much Fujimoto's drawing from its other works, right? And it's really it's like really it's a masterclass in terms of like, you know, like seeing a artist in his element. You know what I mean? Seeing an artist who is confident in what he is doing, and he knows, okay, I can do this now, set this up, I can make this, and I can make you feel something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people, like I said, man, there's a good percentage of people who just will not entertain anything that is not action. And Denji, when Denji's on the screen, they know someone is gonna get sliced up. You know what I mean?
They've been mad as hell at this whole fucking half a year of Denji shit thus far, then, because he has not been doing anything.
Well, he had a good run.
Yeah, that's true.
They are actually.
That's another thing that authors can do, though. They can like take a character and they can like put them in a bind where like they can't like if you have like Spider-Man, right? Like there's this the famous panel of like Spider-Man leaving his like seat behind in the trash can, right? Like you can have a stretch where like your hero doesn't do things because the audience knows they will eventually do it, right? And I think Fujimoto killing the dogs was so unexpected that it became like, yeah, Denji's got to kill somebody. Like Denji has to like, he's got to cook somebody now. And I think it was a perfect setup for him, because it was a little bit of time, but I feel like Falling Devil, he comes in Falling Devil and we get basically everything we need from that. I would say that it wasn't necessarily like, I would say he basically did everything I had wanted him to do with like Denji and Asa and Falling Devil. I don't think he really left anything out. He just did it in his own Fujimoto way. Like the idea of like Denji getting hit by his memories. It wasn't necessarily a drawn out sequence, but it did happen. You know what I'm saying? Like Fujimoto and Gege are kind of like, well, I would definitely say with Fujimoto and Gege too, to some extent. I know he's going to do something with certain characters. You know what I mean? Like other characters, I don't know what he's going to do, but I know that, like, I know that we're getting King of Curse. Oh, well, you didn't actually read the chapter, but I know that we are
just dropped now.
So Gojo versus Sukuna will happen. Like people were telling me Gojo versus Sukuna might not happen because he was in the box for like 3 years. And I was like, no, they're fighting. Like, stop. Like this is happening. Like
he said, I'd win. Like how long? It's happening, dude.
Now.
Come on, man.
Yeah, and like Yuji's gonna land a Black Flash. We know these things are coming. We know that, you know, like there's a certain, like Yuta's gonna do something by the end of the series. Oh, you did read this chapter. So like Yuta with Kenjaku, right? Like that chapter.
I did read that. That shit was gas. I loved that.
It was so unexpected for Gege to go that route. But at the same time, we knew that it was going to be Yuta, and Kenjaku. They had to do something. You know what I mean? Like,
so I hated chapter 236, and I hated the aftermath with everything with like Kashimo and stuff like that. Like I thought that was like so. Like, I was just like, that's just shit. But then when it came to Takaba versus Kenjaku, I was like, wow, Gege just dropped like 2 or 3 of the best chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen yet. And I was like, what? Like the whiplash was insane for me. I was like, what the fuck? This is like really, really good.
I mean, that's how JJK is. He'll piss you off like Yorozu, right? There was a sequence where like everybody hated Yorozu for like a good reason, because he does 212. The greatest, like one of the greatest plot twists in modern shonen. He does 212, and it's like, oh my god,
it was 212.
It was the Megami plot twist where he steals the Enchain. Yeah, and like nobody, like people had like seen it coming, but it was never taken like serious. You know, it's like, oh, maybe he could just hop to Nobura's body or something like that, right? Like no one was really taking it too serious. And then it happens, and your brain like does the math, and you're like, wait, Megami, Maharaga, you start going down the list, and you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. And he does the new. He summons the giant new on top of the side skyscraper. And it's like, yeah, I remember that happened. And somebody said, GG, the series is over. Like they said, as soon as they saw that giant bird raining lightning down, they were like, yep, that's the end of the manga. But the point I was making is what comes immediately after that is Yorozu. You know what I'm saying? Like he goes from okay, great plot twist, and then he does comedy sequence that doesn't work for anybody, and then after that, he drops Gojo come back. You know what I mean? Like he literally will drop greatness, ass, then greatness again, and it's like, okay, bro, like you really just gotta you gotta hold on for JJK.
So I want to talk a little bit about 236 as an example, because you were talking about how the fandom etiquette was absolutely
Dog
trash.
shit.
And this episode is ostensibly, although it has mostly become the JJK episode, which is what I expected. But I still do want to get into our main topic, which is the fandom behavior of online discourse. And I just want to ask, like, why do you guys, like, your take, why do you think it gets this way? I have my own thoughts, but I want to get some other input. Why do you think fandom gets this way? Like, you know, Chainsaw Man fandom on Twitter at this point is just, it's spoiler city. Like, you come on when the chapter drops, it's done. You know what I mean? Just log the fuck off. Don't log on. Stay home.
I
would just allow myself to get spoiled. Like I'll literally just come on Twitter long enough until someone drops a panel, and that's how I know Chainsaw Man was released. Like that's how I know the chapter came out. I mean, I've never seen that panel before. Let me go read the chapter now. That looks crazy.
My problem. So okay, I think so. Fandom discourse and like online discourse, it's not like a problem that's unique to one fandom.
No,
I feel like there's like a decent amount of like toxicity. I hate to use that word. Also, fantastic song by System of a Down. But there's a decent amount of toxicity in any fandom. I will say there's a reason why I don't. It's not toxicity isn't necessarily the reason why I don't necessarily participate in all that much Chainsaw Man discussion online. Aside from like the podcast and shit, but like I will say like one thing. This is something that I don't know. Maybe people get mad at me if I say, but sometimes I see like posts in like the Chainsaw Man community and stuff like that, and the only thing that goes through my head is, what fucking manga are you reading? I feel like I'm reading a completely different manga, but like it's one of those things where, and actually, to be honest, that's actually kind of a good thing. Like that there's so much like people that are so into what they're reading that they want to overanalyze it. They want to get so like super deep into it. And then I feel like there's also a point of like pride that comes in with each fandom. There's a lot of pride in JJK. There's a lot of pride in Chainsaw Man. There's a lot of pride in all these things where people will say like, this is the best new gen manga. Like we are the best. And I think like, especially with Chainsaw Man and JJK, that's where a lot of heads are butting, especially with the Kendrick and Drake tweet. Which actually, I think it's not a bad.
I mean, Drake's like, not bad, man. Drake's not bad. It wasn't.
Yeah,
I didn't interpret it as
I think just JJK fans just don't like Drake.
Dude, what?
I think that's what people should be offended about.
I think it's more about
hands in the air. I didn't know people thought Drake was as washed as he is. Like everyone was like, oh my god, you called it Drake? What the fuck? I was like, Drake has a lot of good albums, guys. Like
maybe
I'm an old
maybe
guy.
we're just
I'm an old guy in the fandom. Like I still think of Drake as like, you know, the Young Money days, you know, when he was rolling with Nicki and Weezy.
I mean, he's not washed. He definitely isn't washed. I would just say that he is comfortable, right? Like he's in a comfortable position. But like
maybe we're just out of touch.
I don't interpret that as an L at all. It's like it would be the same thing if you were like Drake is like Infinity War or something. I'm sorry, Gege is like Infinity War or something like that, right? Where it's like this massive thing, but there's something going on with like the Marvel at that time period. They were cooking something, you know what I mean? They did something.
There's more to it. Drake is not fucking shallow. Drake is not terrible. Even certified level
Drake.
Got some the meaning is there. There's some interesting to it. It's nothing.
I think that was the most surprising thing from this week is that people just don't like Drake. It's the guys that are the problem.
I would say this though. Right now, I do agree.
It's fucking disrespectful.
Yeah, if I was Drake, I'd be a little bit offended. But I do agree with the ego part. I think that the pride and the ego has reached all-time high. I would say it's definitely there with Chainsaw Man. I've seen a lot more since like 2023. I would say like when the anime was releasing and part 2 was releasing, people weren't really that much pride in Chainsaw Man. Like it didn't really get crazy until like the next year, like until 2023, in my opinion. Because
absolutely.
early it was like, is the anime good? People were complaining about the anime. You know what I'm saying? Like people didn't like the beginning of part 2. They didn't like the pacing or whatever. And then like, he started picking up the pace a little bit. And now it's like, all right, F everybody else. CSM is cooking something that we can actually eat. Whereas with JJK, I'll tell you, man, these guys have a notorious. This is what I didn't understand about JJK fans for a good minute. Like they introduced me to the concept of like agenda pushing itself. Like I didn't understand that like people would just like say things that are wrong just because they wanted to push agenda. And so I would be like, why are you saying this? This makes no sense.
Agenda Kaisen, dude.
Agenda Kaisen. And I remember I was talking to somebody. And I was like, dude, this is so stupid. Like what they were saying, it was like Yuta versus Hikari. And they were like, Hikari is just going to easily beat him and he'll never lose that fight. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they were like, agenda over facts. They're like, agenda is always greater than factual statements. And I was like, okay. After that, they made a mistake because then I hopped onto the Gojo agenda and made, and really was just slandering the crap out of Big Saguda for a good minute. Because it's just agenda. It's like you don't have to believe in it. You just have to say it and have something that other people agree with.
So in that regard, the whole point, right, of agenda is not even to discuss the manga because you're just saying things that are false, right? Like you're not actually discussing the manga as it is because you're just lying. The point is simply the discourse, right? You're engaged with the manga. This is something that friend of the show Doofy has discussed over on his channel in a philosophy video before, a pretty good one. I forgot the title, but it's actually pretty nice.
Oh, Doofy slaps.
Doofy slaps. Yeah, he's got great takes, especially on like fandom and this kind of discussion. I should have tapped him in for this, but I forgot. I was freed by Canadians.
Common Doves L.
Yeah, Common L. I was literally talking to him on the timeline anyway. Whatever, dude. But this kind of stuff, it's not actually about the content itself, right? It's simply about the directing and controlling the online narrative, right? Like it is simply to what is the point of it? I mean, it's for fun, right? It's just kind of like memes.
Oh, it's definitely fun. I mean, you gotta understand that most agendas are born out of like some sort of like emotional frustration with the conversation. So like I'll tell you, like the Gojo agenda comes from like having conversations with people who were being disrespectful towards him. And they were like, before he got out the box, right? Like before that happened, and like before it was like Gojo versus Sukuna, people would say that he was getting destroyed. They were like, he's gonna get walked through. He's garbage. He's not gonna be able to fight Sukuna. Sukuna's gonna easily beat him. Sukuna's slashes they can slice through the soul. His fire arrow is gonna cook him. All this kind of stuff. And I would be sitting there listening to like 4 or 5 people, 1v6, and they're yelling at me, telling me that Gojo was going to get completely annihilated by Sukuna. And I'm like, are you talking about Gojo Satoru? Like, you're talking about big Gojo Satoru flying through the air and declared himself above the heavens and earth. That guy is getting walked through. The guy who did 0.2 domain expansion on the fly, made that shit up for the first time in history. And you're telling me he's getting walked through. And then I see him get into the manga, I come back in the manga, and he puts on that kind of performance. Like, bro, that you're getting some agenda pushed on you. I'm sorry, you're getting slandered. Like,
it's a little bit of pride. It's a little bit of it is born from the discourse itself, right? It comes
like the
from the clash between the fans, not actually the content of the manga, which is a very interesting thing to me. It's like a secondary.
There is something with the content of the manga though that I've noticed.
Go ahead, yeah.
Especially when it comes to JJK, I see it. I see it in both JJK and Chainsaw Man. I don't know if I see this anywhere else. It's a bizarre phenomenon, but if you bring up any valid criticism at all, there will be so many accounts that will like jump on you and like
very distant.
It's just like it's a weird thing, like especially for like JJK, especially. I remember there was a time where I wasn't very into the Culling game arc. I thought some of it was like meh. And then also, especially because I made a video about 236, and there are a lot of people that like, you know, like I would say, especially for 236, I said, you know, it's very unsatisfactory how it ended, because by the end of the fight, it looked like a beautifully played W from Gojo. Like, just the way that he ended up making things work. Like, it didn't feel like an ass pull. It felt like, you know, holy shit, dude just like absolutely like this is why he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
And then people were like, well, okay, but what about this that happened here? Like, what about the domain fights? Like, obviously he was losing that. And it's just like, yeah, but then he ended up like basically taking the W. And just a lot of things where it's just like, what do you mean this feels like it came out of nowhere? What do you mean this feels like an ass pull or like frustrating? Like, I feel like this is like perfectly lined up for this. Like with this, and this. And it's just like,
It's
like,
not.
it's not, or like I don't know, and it's one of those things where it's just like, I get it, I like what I like, and you know, the fact that they're so passionate about what they love is like that's commendable in that of itself. But you know, we have to be realistic sometimes. We're not realistic, I don't know, because like everyone's opinion is their own opinion, and it's just an opinion. That's what it is.
For example,
but so many people will jump on that shit.
Yeah, I will defend the Denji arc as overall, this Denji Preston arc as overall important, and I think it works in the end. But there's a lot of things you could criticize about it. I mean, the Fumiko introduction, very questionable. Again, I think it works more than it doesn't in the end.
If he does something with it,
right? Fumiko discourse is like so. I've talked about it all the time. It's so exhausting to me because obviously, like, I'm on a different plane than most people in that, where it's just like, to me, like what happened, it was, in my opinion, it was Fujimoto introducing this wacky new character, and obviously, if we think about it in real life, fucked up, terrible thing. But I don't think it was supposed to be this huge thing that it got turned into. And obviously, I'm in the minority when I say that. But like especially like all the Fumiko discourse online. That's another thing with the Chainsaw Man fandom, where I was just like, huh. Like, am I reading a different manga than everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with Fumiko, like, I agree that the discourse got out of hand. I would say that I don't remember the Chainsaw Man fandom being like this until Part 2 dropped and got popular. Because when I was in like the community tab or whatever for Chainsaw Man, and I was a wee little account, like, we were crazy. Like, Chainsaw Man fans were just like crazy people who were just like ridiculously excited to see Chainsaw Man come back in anime. And we used to have like shipping wars. There was like a twerk contest at one point. It was like kind of nonsense. Like, it was like Chainsaw Man itself in real life, like a community tab. And then I think that a lot of like the audience from Twitter kind of got their hands on it, and then like the broader like Twitter timeline, and so that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to have like a serious discussion about like what's going on. Like, Fumiko is, again, I feel like he has to cook with that, because if he doesn't cook with it, then I'm like, all right, that was like kind of just ass, because where are we going with this? But if he does,
I think he's sorry.
Yeah, if he does cook with it, then like, I mean, I feel like he set it up. It's there. Like, we understand the state. You know, she basically is like spying on him in the bathroom. She assaults him. She doesn't really protect him. She is, you know, basically stripping away his civil rights little by little. And that's just her job. Like, she like, it's not even like she's like personally trying to get Denji. It's like she's just like a tool of the state to control him. And as like the story goes along, I hope that he does something to like bring that to its conclusion. I really do, because Fumiko could be
probably pretty close, man. I mean, she's right there right now, and shit's going down. So
is it
I don't think. So this is part of the thing with Fumiko discourse. I don't think that he's like hyping her up for any kind of payoff. I think like whatever the payoff for Fumiko has already happened when she said that, you know, she supports, or she was like, I'm not a Chainsaw Man fan, I'm a Denji fan. I think that was what she was supposed to be
That we have,
and like I'm in the minority when I say that,
yeah,
but like
but that still has to go somewhere, right? Like we all understand it, but it still needs to go. We still need like, where does that go? Like, so what? We're still waiting for the so what, and we're still waiting for it. Like, it hasn't been that long.
does it have to go somewhere?
5 or 6
It
chapters.
has to go somewhere because you can't have a character that is like, you can't have a character that you put like a giant spotlight on and then they do absolutely nothing in the manga. Like if you,
well, I think her the point the role she's supposed to fill is a wacky companion. That's what it feels like, kind of like Himeno.
I feel like she's
like
at that job.
That's
I feel like if I compare her to like Kobini, Himeno, Power, those types of characters, like specifically like Power is like a really good example. Like people say Power doesn't really do anything, but I think Power did just enough for me personally to be like a beloved character. Like people love
absolutely
Power.
I agree with that. Yeah,
have to do anything else. And Power has a kind of a similar thing where she tries to like kill Denji, and then she has like the boob groping scene or whatever. But like he does something with Power by the end of the manga. You know what I'm saying? Like every scene with Power is like, you get the scene where she comes back and he has to eat his flowers because Rez doesn't show up to the restaurant. That's one of my favorite scenes, where she just comes back in after the Rez and she's like, Power! And she like gives a little bit of like an emotional relief for Denji. Then you have the next arc, which is the assassin arc, and you have Power like crash a fucking car into the assassins, and it's like she's not doing anything, but it's some of it gives you the humor, it gives you the emotion, it gives you this. Fumiko is literally just like useless, and she's useless because she's supposed to have a purpose. You know what I mean? Like she's supposed to be a bodyguard, and she doesn't even do that. I could understand if she was the exact same character, but she just like anybody tried to touch Denji and her like devil came out and killed or like fought them or something like that. But she hasn't even done a basic devil contract summoning it yet. Like
clearly there's something more to it, because like she's literally hasn't done it. Like, you know, she's said she's gonna do things and then she doesn't do them, and the question is, okay, what is with that? And like I said, we're gonna have to see where it goes. She's still around. She still keeps showing up in the chapters. Clearly, her being present in this moment matters because he keeps showing her being there. Like, she didn't run off. She's still there. Something's going down. Things are going down right now. We'll see about that. But like you said, the discourse around her, one of my big major rant posts in the community talking about the community was the Fumiko discourse, because it gets so off the rails. It gets absolutely ridiculous. Pretty much every time you start talking about Fumiko, instantly people start talking about things that are not the content of the manga. They're not evaluating whether, the choices that Fujimoto made contribute to the story in a meaningful way that justifies them, or whether it makes sense for this to happen within the story, or whether it's a meaningful thing to push on Denji's, self-concept of sexuality in this way. Like, they don't discuss any of that. It's just immediately yelling at each other, calling each other all sorts of shit, da 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 da, people coming in and being like, actually, Fumiko's a really great character, and it's like, no, she's not, dude. She's just fucking there. Like, she's okay, but like, we barely have anything. She's whatever.
This is a hill I will die on.
Right. Like, people
Tatsuki Fujimoto did not intend for the fandom to not like Fumiko. I still believe when he wrote her in, he did not write her in to be a character that you're supposed to hate. Even though, I like how the fan base has reacted to her.
I don't agree with that.
I don't think he wrote her in to be a hated character.
Well, I'll say this about Fujimoto, is that he writes transgressive fiction, right? So when you write something that's intentionally transgressive, you're actually trying to piss people off in general. Like, you're trying to get people riled up. So I would definitely say with Fumiko, I think honestly with Fujimoto and most Japanese mangaka, they just don't care. Like, they don't really care if the fandom gets pissed off about something.
He's
like
not thinking about the fandom at all.
Gege said, he said, I don't care who dies. I just want to write what I think is interesting. And you can see at this that he's basically listed off a bunch of like plot points that he thinks are interesting, and he's writing the manga just to get to those plot points.
Let me go back to my point about Kendrick and Drake. because he's here to make big hits. He doesn't care if people are going to talk about, oh, it's shallow. Oh, it's not real hip hop. Oh, it's da 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 da. Oh, he's talking about money and women, whatever. Oh, it's boring. Oh, da da da. He wants to find the sound, make the songs that gets attention, that is interesting. He's focused on the interest with his artwork, right? He's not focused on the other stuff. He's like, Gege, he will sacrifice things that people think are important that he does not. People are like, what about the meaning of all this stuff? What about what about the satisfaction of the Gojo fight? What about all of this attachment I have built with these characters and the story, and what's the point of this narrative? And
fuck your attachment.
he comes in with the existentialism, like, life is pointless, bam, meaning is constructed by you, bam, you made it up, bam, I don't care, bam, I'm gonna do something exciting, fuck your concepts, which is, I respect it in a lot of ways. It's gonna be a problem, and there's very real criticisms of that. I like that mindset.
It can be hard to read. It's definitely a fascinating thing to see an artist at this level just saying F everything. I want to, like, you can tell that, like, at a certain point we could tell that, like, Gege probably didn't want to write Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, this wasn't like the manga. If he had
I definitely
if he had a choice, this was not the series he wanted to write. He definitely wants to get this over with and get to his idol manga. Like, we make jokes about it, but to some degree I definitely think it's true. But it's definitely interesting to see an artist be able to do something like that, to be able to say, hey, this is like the biggest character to come out of Nugent in a while, and I'm gonna fucking kill him off in one chapter. Like, I'm gonna give him a 10 chapter fight, and then as soon as I'm done with that fight,
screen,
he's done. He's gone. And then we give Kashimo, and people thought Kashimo was gonna be like my guy. Like, the Kashimo is a really good example of the agenda too, because before, Kashimo has been hyped up for a while by everybody with like very reasonably. Like, everybody loves Kashimo in terms of like as a fighter and all that stuff. But when Gojo died and he was going to the battlefield, people immediately started talking like crazy garbage. Like, they were like, Kashimo is gonna be doing more damage to Gojo to Sukuna than Gojo did. He's gonna have a better performance. He's gonna be the strongest character in the series. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. His curse technique is gonna move mountains. And then Gege is like, dude, I don't care about Kashimo. I will show you what his curse technique is and does, and that dude is dead. I was
definitely hoping for more with Kashimo. I was hoping he would do more.
Hoping for more, but that's where agenda comes in, right? Like, if you ask me as just a normal fan, I would prefer 3 or 4 chapters. But if you ask me in terms of Gojo agenda after he died and people started talking trash on his name immediately, I immediately
you were like,
was praying on his name for it. I was down. I was like, please, Gege, kill this man. And when he did it, I started slandering Kashimo immediately. I was like, oh, look at that. I was like, oh, this is the guy? Like, you said this guy was doing more damage to Sukuna than Gojo? Like, I was posting on, we still slander Kashimo. He's gone from like being like the greatest. Like, when Sukuna was fighting Gojo, he got like the fraud memes. And people don't understand the fraud memes. Like, the fraud is that Sukuna is the king of curses. He's the strongest sorcerer of all time. He's the greatest warrior in the history of the series. And when he fought Gojo, he looked like he was out of place. He looked like he was completely out of his element. Like, Gojo was just molly-whopping him. And that's the fraud. It's like you say something and you're not that thing, right? With Kashimo, he's not really a fraud.
You're not that guy.
But the fraud and the farmer memes and all the memes basically came from, like, it went from Sukuna, and then they took all those memes and slapped them on Kashimo, and then he got killed. So he can't even defend himself.
Jumping on the fraud, because there were a dark couple of weeks where there were Yoru fraud memes going around, and I got, when has she ever been fraudulent? You know what I mean? Yoru never came in like, I'm the strongest of all time. She came in talking about, I'm weak right now. I need to power up. You know what?
I would say that most JJK there. It's interesting to see the Chainsaw Man fandom take the JJK memes and like try to make them work for like the series. They don't really work, but it's still, it's funny. It's just interesting to see it, right? Like, it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, they've taken like the someone might be like the what was they did? Oh, they did one with like Fumiko or something like that, where
Yeah,
she was like
Fumi was
floating
the fraudulent
in
one.
the air.
He's kind of fraudulent.
Yeah. I alone and the fraudulent one.
He's
It's like,
talking about like, I'm gonna protect you. I'm your
yeah,
fan. No,
Yeah, she
no,
also the fraudulent
that's fraudulent.
claim does work for Fumiko.
yeah. It kind of works for Fumiko, but at the same time, it's just not as severe. Like the fraud thing was really about Sukuna himself. It would be like if Madara Uchiha came back and he was getting mollywopped by like Kakashi. Like nobody thought that he was getting. No one thought he would get completely manhandled by Gojo like that. Like it never crossed. It didn't cross. I was a big Gojo fanboy, and I never thought I would see this man knocked out in the middle of the fight and calling for Maharaga on backup. Like never. When I saw the Maharaga panel, I was like, "There's no way that's
That shit was so
Sukuna.
funny.
Ryoma Sukuna is screaming for backup in the middle of a fight versus anybody." And for that to happen is like, it's hilarious because it's like, dude, you said that you were the greatest of all time. You said that you would make it look easy, and it does not look easy, Sukuna. What's happening to you? But he got it done. He got it out the mud. Those who hang with him,
one way or another, Gege came in with the assist at the end there.
There's a famous there's a famous meme where it's like Sukuna is like half knocked out when he got punched or whatever, when he got Black Flash, and it's like he's talking to Gege, like they have the Sukuna, and then they have Gege, and he's like, "What is this? This is some bullshit. Draw me winning, Gege. Give me right now. He's like, give me the W." And that's basically what ends up happening. It's like Sukuna is getting destroyed for the majority of the fight, and then he just gets the W. He's like, "Oh, and now you can cut through space." He basically just gives him like a kryptonite laser beam at the end of the fight with Superman, and he's like, "I won." It's hilarious.
Absolutely disrespectful end of the fight, but again, I gave my
about that too. When it came out, we were talking about sophistry, right? Like the idea of like trying to make something sound more intellectual than it is, and it's like it was that, in my opinion, is a prime example of shonen sophistry, where it's just like, dude, like this is not that smart. Like we understand that like what needed to happen, but like, bro, literally you gave him the ability to slice through space. That's basically what happened. Like. He learned how to do that in the middle of the fight, which is fine, but it's also like annoying.
I did think I'm going to Gege defense mode. Think of this, Sukuna talks about like, I've got plans for you, Megumi, right after he fights Maharaga, and Maharaga's there adapting. So he's like, ooh, this guy can adapt, in that moment, he's like, I'm gonna pack up Gojo with this.
Yeah, he's like Gojo's cooked. He's like,
Gojo's done. He's in the box. He'll pop out. I've got this in the bag. Like no one can touch me now because I'll just get Megumi, and then I'll just bring out Maharaga, and it will adapt to everything, and I'll just stand there and watch, and I'll just learn everything. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm like, I can learn any curse because I'm the king of curses. Yeah. So like, and Maharaga can make any curse because it's fucking whatever it's got going on.
It's kind of a crazy ability. Like if you look at like Doomsday, or you look at like Darwin from like the comics, like they can all adapt to everything, right? But like Maharaga will literally not even stop adapting. He will just like evolve until the point where he just gets whatever your kryptonite is, and then
who made I hate to, who made the Doomsday versus Maharaga video? Someone made a video.
Really? I didn't see that one.
Fuck, it's such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's a
I would have been DJ Miles actually.
It's a fair comparison, I think that he's very Doomsday-esque. Like the concept of like the death of Superman and all that, right? Like Doomsday is the one who kills Superman. And how does Gojo end up getting killed? He ends up getting killed by this giant monster that can adapt to anything. So it's very like parallel, in my opinion.
It might be like, direct referential,
It might be like it's like, definitely. I have full respect for how he set it up.
Like, and that's no disrespect to Gege. That's a great choice to make, making your own Doomsday to battle your own Superman and setting it up that early. I mean, that's really great stuff. Gege, great writer.
He's a great force.
He's a great rapper. Everybody got way
the crux of the issue is that JJK fans just don't fucking like Drake. That's the problem here.
They don't like CSM. They do not like Fujimoto. They might like the one shots or whatever. But when it comes to Chainsaw Man, the overwhelming opinion is that Chainsaw Man is bad, and they don't understand why anyone likes it. And I'm like, dude, go read the manga again. Like, please stop.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. I like the point you made earlier. Is that maybe it is like the wackiness that
it's definitely
because JJK is actually decently straightforward. I think there's a little wackiness in JJK every now and then, but it's decently straightforward. Where Chainsaw Man is definitely like a fuck it we ball manga. That's I still argue against it being overly intellectual. I still think it's more fuck it we ball. But
I'll
like
tell you this, man. You like the Takaba chapters, and the majority of the JJK fans hated those chapters. So that
seriously,
yeah, they don't
those are like the best chapters. I love that shit. That was so good.
Like it. They're like, what is going on?
Went so hard, and now we're getting this clown shit. That's what I was seeing.
And
This is why I'm not online very often.
Right. He lasted like 4 chapters, and Kashima lasted 2 chapters. This is bullshit. And then like, oh, Yuji and Higuruma are coming down. Like, I understand. I think the Takaba chapters were pretty good, especially in hindsight. But like those types of characters, anything like even One Piece. Like One Piece is a manga that sometimes gets slandered. And with all due respect, Ichiro Oda is one of the greatest mangaka of all time. But like an Egghead is currently the best thing he's written in probably 10 years. But like the gag manga aspect is like something like anything that is like silly is like it's a bit of a red flag for JJK fans. I would just say like I don't recommend anything. I don't even like I don't recommend Dandadan anymore. I'm just like, yo, read Children X or Sakamoto Days. You'll like that. And then I'm not gonna recommend Dandadan to read 3 chapters and say this.
One thing I will say about the JJK fan I've noticed is like they really don't read other shit, man. Like
they don't read other
shit. Fandom, I can like come on and I can be like, hey guys, Dungeon Meshi's good, and like all my Chainsaw Man mutuals like Dungeon Meshi, that sounds interesting. I'll check that out. I could be like, hey guys, check out this shoujo manga, and they're like, I don't really read shoujo, but if you say it's good, I'll check it out. You know what I mean? I don't see that happening in the JJK fandom, man. It's all JJK all the time.
I saw someone tweet the other day. So someone said something about JJK, and then someone, I don't even remember who said it and what the context was, but someone was like, "Dear Lord, please read a second manga."
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a joke. Like, I actually know I have like not necessarily mutuals, but like I know people on the timeline. It's like they legit either don't read anything else, they read other things and talk shit about those things by comparison to JJK, or they literally have said like after JJK is finished, they're not reading anything else. Like they're leaving social media, they're leaving the community. They're not going to read any other manga because it is like the only manga that like has them.
There's so much JJK that's crazy like a love song to the rest of the medium. He's doing both.
Yeah. It's like direct references to like.
I mean, it's direct. Like if you liked JJK, go read Hunter x Hunter, and then if you're gonna go read Hunter x Hunter, well, you should probably go read Fist of the North Star, go read JoJo. Like all of this stuff is connected, and they're just like, mid. It's like. I don't know, man. Like, what's
good? It's important to make the distinction. This is a vocal minority.
Yeah, this is
I would say it's at least a majority on Twitter. Maybe on other platforms, like YouTube scene is a little bit different with JJK. I'm aware that Reddit is different. And there's a lot of people who I think it's like going back to what we were saying earlier. It comes down to ego. It comes down to hype. Right, like JJK is just so hyped right now. It's reached that like if it was running during the big 3, it wouldn't necessarily be a big 4 just because of how much they were selling, but it would definitely be like like in that conversation.
I think or like it's what I don't want to happen is I don't want people to watch this and be like, I like JJK. Are they talking about me? And it's just like, no. If you like JJK and you have like a healthy relationship with it.
It's not about
you. Yeah, like that's different. I like JJK. We all like JJK. It's just like if you go online and you see a post about like Chainsaw Man or Demon Slayer or something like that, and it has unrelated to JJK, and you type in the comments, JJK clears Chainsaw Mid.
Yeah,
this is about you. We are talking about you.
I don't think those people watch this podcast, but if you
that's true. Maybe
I'm sure they'll find out
you directly.
But like I think that like it's just got to the point where everybody, I think you were saying this before, like with like the internet, like everyone has access to an account and they can technically say whatever they want. So you're always gonna have someone like I could tweet anything about Gojo and Sukuna, and I'm gonna get like 40 of the same faces, right? Like I'm gonna get the same PFPs coming to yell at me about how Sukuna was never losing the fight and how Gojo sucks
Dude,
and
the amount I will say, it's been a little. It's been a little
like,
sad.
they get so emotionally invested in this, right? Like they get to the point where it's like they're writing the manga. You know what I mean? Like there's that we have a term for it, like gay gaggers, right? Where it's like guys who just never they never say anything negative about JJK ever, and anytime they hear something that's even remotely negative, they're in your quote retweets, right? Like they're
we definitely
I experienced it this week. I was like, I have to summon the
you got
guy.
a couple of them. I saw a couple names. I saw one name and I was like, yeah, he's getting cooked. I was like,
we also I will say just so that like because I don't want to shit too much on one community in particular. We also do have Fujimoto gaggers. We have Fujimoto gaggers out the ass.
And has elitists, right? Like he definitely has like people that are like I don't know if it's not the same thing, to be honest, because with Chainsaw, it's fair to like JJK has like with like Black Clover, Boruto, My Hero, you know, those manga, they have like certain people who will like die for the manga, you know what I'm saying? But with JJK, it's the manga, so it's a little bit more like excessive, where it's like a little bit more like we are better than you. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit more like, because like it used to be when I first came on Twitter, it used to be that JJK fans hated like Black Clover fans, right? So that was like the beef.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was kind of funny.
Going after each other, like they legit hated each other. There were certain people in the JJK community, like the first guy in the JJK community I followed.
It's kind of two branches of the Bleach history, right? You got like Black Clover, which goes into just like swing big sword, huge energy beams, sick fights direction. And you got JJK, which goes more towards the like power system Hunter x Hunter type, but both in the Bleach, aura, going hard, cold shit manga, right? Like that.
If you look at it on the surface, they don't look that different, right? Like if you just look at like volume 1 of Black Clover and volume 1, and you never read it, and you just look at the volume cover, like when I first saw JJK, I was like, oh, this is gonna be super generic. And then I started reading it, and it gets way more interesting, and it goes in like unexpected directions. Whereas with Black Clover, it's pretty like but it's like a formulaic type of story. You know, I'm not hating on Black Clover at all. It's a fun manga. Black Clover, I enjoy it. It just can't hold me for long. But
I read it twice, and I was like, the second time, I was like, okay, whatever.
It's like
I have one friend. Oh, sorry.
I fucking hate, dude. I love that shit. So sick.
I have one friend online who is like, he's super not toxic. He's a huge Boruto fan. Fan. I know there is some toxicity in the Boruto community. I've seen some pretty aggressive Boruto fans out there. But he made like the funniest tweet I've ever seen, where he was like he was like, it's such a shame that Boruto takes a like S tier character and puts it in a C tier manga in reference to because I don't know much about Boruto, but apparently Boruto himself is a decently written character at the very least, and he was talking about how Boruto is like S tier in a C tier manga. I thought that was really funny because I know there is some writing issues, at least with the story, at least in base Boruto. I know that there's like Boruto Part 2 Electric Boogaloo now, and apparently that's been pretty gas.
I mean, it's like
classic Naruto getting better after the time skip. You know what I mean? Just run it back.
I mean,
different year, same shit, different era.
I would just say Boruto it's at a disadvantage. But let's talk about like the fan base of Boruto, not necessarily like the manga, because again, we don't want to shit too much on any one manga. But like the fan base of Boruto is like they're a good example of people who just got a chip on their shoulder. Like you can practically feel like how annoyed they are with the amount of trash that Boruto has gotten, like in terms of like people slandering it and stuff. And I feel bad. Like I think some of the slander is warranted. I mean, you've got characters that are basically like 2 words different than their dad or something like that. Like they'll take 2 parents and just like put the names together. So to some degree, it's like like Boruto is like a prime example of like if you have a problem with like the manga community as and like the way in which they take their products and they take it from being like an artist into just being a product. Boruto is like literally like even Boruto fans will admit that it's a cash grab, right? Like most people will admit that the reason why Boruto exists because Naruto was so successful that like
Right.
they could not let that go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think Kishimoto in any way, shape, or form intended for there to be a sequel. Like they practically put a gun to his head and said, "Hey,
No,
yours
he like
This is making too much
and then
money.
saved the world, right? That's a pretty big,
Yeah.
period
yeah,
on
yeah."
it.
He basically instantly he ends all possibility for a sequel, and they said, "We're having a sequel." And it's a little bit hard for me to get into it because I'm like, either the villains are like recycled from like the previous series, or it's like I just don't particularly care for like I'm not a big like power type of guy where it's like the strongest person of all time. Like I'm a Gojo fan, but that's because Gojo's well written, right? And
Yeah.
in the context of Jujutsu Kaisen, the series is not really like a big power level type of series, right? Like it's not like they're lopping off the tops of mountains or something like that.
No, yeah,
So
I mean
I'm
it's
not a
pretty
fan
like
of that.
contained, right? You maybe as big as like a bomb,
Yeah.
Yeah,
about
he created like a bomb as
Uh,
ultimate attack, and it was like, okay, you know, to be like, it's like, yes, that's what I want to see. Keep it on that level. But like with Boruto, apparently, like they can use like the rotation of the earth and that enhances their attacks, and people are going, they're like, oh my god, this is so cool, and I'm like, uh. I'm just like, all right, I mean, it sounds really cool, but is the story any good? Like, I don't know. I get
that's
mixed.
kind of nutty.
Yeah, it's just kind of I just can't like at a certain point, like I know the manga like Toriko is like really famous for its like power
yes,
levels and stuff like that,
it's like
and
crazy.
I just can't get into it, but maybe one day. But I'm just not into that kind of stuff. I just personally, you know, Don and Don is a nice little, you know, like building level series. I think the biggest
Yeah.
the biggest thing that's ever happened is like one character did like an interdimensional attack, and that character is like the strongest person in the series. But
Oh,
it was really like in context, it wasn't like that scary. It was just like, oh my god, did they just do that?
yes. It was super cool. I loved that fucking.
I need to catch up on Don to Don. I was weekly for the longest time, and then I don't know. I fell off at one point. I don't remember when I fell off, but I need to get back on it just because I got so much to catch up on. Don to Don and Gatsu Yakuta. I will say I might have to fucking Osaki Nishi Tsudeshi pretty soon.
Talking about
Uh,
communities,
that
I'm gonna
incredible.
I'm gonna come in there. We've been complaining about big communities that are popular, talking about problems in the Chainsaw Man fandom, talking about the JJK fandom being very aggressive and one note. The Boruto fandom got a chip on their shoulder. We even talked a little bit about Black Clover fandom. Shout out to the remainders. I know your manga went monthly because the industry killed your mangaka, which that fucking sucked. I will catch up to Black Clover eventually because I do enjoy the first read through of it. I just like to wait until like 100 chapters are stacked up so I can just go. I will say if you do that with Black Clover, it's fucking gas. But I will say Don Don's got an anime coming, and if we're talking about anime communities, I hope that community grows because the manga's
Yes,
awesome, and we've got Science Saru anime. Ooh, it's
looks
gonna be. Ooh, it's looking good. Things that need to come up, communities that need to grow. Don Da Don, Chojin X, 100% for sure.
yes.
So good
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
now.
Both of those.
Absolutely big. Dungeon Meshi and Frieren are coming up as well. Those are two that I'm
Children X may be some of the best.
Oh my god, yeah.
now.
extremely glad are getting more attention. End of the day, most of these problems, I just want to say at the end, most of these problems, they're not even specific to fandom at all. If you go on Twitter and you talk about leftist politics, if you go on Twitter and you talk about men's clothing, you will get motherfuckers doing the exact same kind of thing in your mentions, being annoying as shit with weird ass agendas, and God knows why. Everyone who acts like that online, what's your problem? Calm down, chill the fuck out. You know, if you're having fun memeing, great. If this is what you do every hour of every day of your life, man, you need to reflect. That's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you to my guests for coming on. This was a fun yapping session. It was a full-on yapping session. I love that kind of shit. It was great. Great discussion. Great comments. Thank you, Migraine, for coming on again. I definitely want to have you on for like a discussion of Chainsaw Man because you low-key have really good takes that kind of get overlooked, I think, but I always enjoy your Chainsaw Man takes. Definitely want to discuss more. You had some great comments in this episode. Even thank you all for listening. For those of you who sat through this this discourse, thank you all the people who dogpiled me on that it was fun. No, I had a good time. Overall,
Hey,
it was funny.
we needed a topic, so it's a good one.
There were some good memes that came up on Reddit. You know, the what Attack on Titan is Kanye one. I mean, that's
Holy shit!
I was thinking about, I was like, who would be Kanye? Who would be allowed to be said to be Kanye?
Attack on
Actually,
Titan.
I did want to put one amendment to your original tweet. I wish I got this in earlier. I would actually say Chainsaw Man is Tyler the Creator, but
I can see that.
it's just me.
Chainsaw Man is Tyler. Sure. Yeah, I'll take that one too. I think they're both pretty like heady intellectual, but regardless. Anyway, we had the discussion today. We don't need to keep going with it. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next time. We'll be back talking about the next chapter of Chainsaw Man. I don't even want to think about it. See you next time. Bye.